In this video, our goal is to set up Android Studio so you can start building your own Android apps. I'll walk you through the installation process and I'll do a tour of Android Studio while sharing some tips that will help you succeed. Android Studio is important because as an Android developer, you're going to spend most of your time in Android Studio. You'll use it for writing the code for your app, debugging your code, and turning the code you write into a running app. That's why you'll sometimes hear Android Studio referred to as an IDE, or Integrated Development Environment, since it combines various development tools such as your text editor, terminal, and debugger, all in one application. Because Android Studio is so central to building apps for Android, becoming familiar with it will pay dividends and save you lots of time and frustration. For some quick background, Android is a mobile operating system that came out in 2008, and it's developed by Google. Android is a dominant operating system for phones, with billions of people using it every single day. Google has made Android Studio available for every major computer operating system, including Mac, Windows, and Linux. Navigate to developer.android.com/studio, which is where we'll download Android Studio. As of the time of this recording, the latest stable version of Android Studio is 4.0.1, but that'll change in the future because Google is constantly improving and modifying Android Studio. Let's start the download by tapping on this green button. You can read through the terms and conditions, tap the checkbox, and then hit this button. And this download might take a while because it's a pretty large file. For me, it's about 856 megabytes. After it's done downloading, set up Android Studio with all the default options. If you go to developer.android.com/studio/install, you'll see what that looks like based on the kind of computer you have. Once you're done with that, come back to this video and we'll create a new project. Now we have Android Studio fully set up, so when you open it up, you should see something like this. I want to spend most of this video talking about the different parts of the Android Studio interface, but in order to do so, we first need to create a project. So I'm going to hit that option to create a new Android Studio project. And the first option you have here is which template do you want to start your project with. And we're going to select empty activity. You can think of an activity like a screen in your app. So selecting empty activity means I want to start a new project which has a single empty screen. Next, we're going to choose a name for our application. And because we're building this app to learn more about Android Studio, I'll call it Studio Study. The name we pick will be shown at the top of our application by default, and it's also used to determine something called the package name. The package name indicates a directory structure so that files in your app can be uniquely identified. It doesn't actually matter what it is, but the convention I suggest to most students is to take your email address and flip it backward. So for me, it would become edu.stanford.rkpandey. The app name that we picked. The location you can pick wherever you want. We're going to choose Kotlin as the language for developing our app. You have the option to build your Android app with either Java or Kotlin, and we're going to pick Kotlin because it's a much more modern and powerful language. Finally, we're going to select the minimum SDK or minimum API version for our application, and we're going to pick API 21, which is Android 5.0 or Lollipop. This is an Android operating system that came out in 2014, and you can see that around 94.1% of devices are on this version of Android or higher, which means the majority of devices should be able to run our application. Now we'll tap on Finish, and Android Studio will take a couple seconds to create the scaffolding for our project and create the new files. You'll know it's done when the status bar at the bottom has stopped updating. Now we're looking at the main interface for Android Studio. There are a lot of different widgets and UI elements here, which can be overwhelming, but there are really only 4 or 5 parts of Android Studio that we're going to use the most, and that's what I want to cover. So the majority of the screen is the editor window where you're going to write code. By default, there are 2 files open in the editor window, one which is main activity and the other which is activity main. So I can select either of those in order to learn more about that file and edit it. The other major part of Android Studio is the project window, which is this component on the left over here. We can toggle its visibility by tapping on it from the tool window, and I can also increase or decrease the size by dragging over here. One of the options I have is I can decide how do I want to view the different files in my project. And by default, you're going to have something called the project view. But the view that I prefer is the Android view because this is mentally how I think about my project as an Android developer. So if I open up this directory called app, you can see there are 3 modules inside of an empty project. First is manifests. So this will have one file called Android manifest, and every single application must have an Android manifest file, which is used to declare things like permissions that your app needs and how many screens your app has. The second module is the Java folder. This will contain all of the source code for your application. And even though it says Java, it'll actually contain the Kotlin code we write as well. So for example, this main activity file that came in by default is a Kotlin file, but it still exists inside of the Java module. The third and final part of the app directory is res. So res stands for resources, and this will contain all of the non-code resources in our project. Things like XML layouts, which is activity main.xml, the UI strings for our application, and all the images for our app. All of that will belong inside of the res folder. And finally, at the bottom here, there's one module for Gradle scripts. Gradle is a build system, and basically you can think of it as a set of instructions for how to take all the files in our application and turn them into an application which will actually run on your Android phone. I'd like to go back to the layout directory inside of the res folder, which is where we have a file called activity main.xml. This file is important because it defines the UI or user interface for our application. So by default, we're looking at the graphical representation of our UI. So this is what the user would see. But there is an underlying XML representation of this UI. So what I can do is I can double tap on the file name in order to minimize all the other tool windows. And at the top right, what you can see is 3 different ways of viewing this same file. So by default, we have the design tab. I can also go to the code tab, which is the actual underlying XML. And so you can see basically there's a constraint layout and a text view, which has some text here, which is hello world. And I can also look at both the XML code and the graphical UI side by side. And one important thing to realize is that there's a one-to-one correspondence between the XML and the UI. So for example, if I change this to be hi instead of hello world, and I go back to the graphical tab, now you can see how it got updated right away to show hi. So typically when I'm creating a new application, I'll start out in the design tab, and then I can use the palette over here to drag out different components that I care about, for example, a button. And then to make fine-tuned changes about the positioning of this button, I'll go into the code tab and then I can modify it as appropriate. For now, let me just delete that. So we have a single text view in our UI, which says hi. Before running the application, there's one more thing I'd like to show, which is easy to gloss over if you're new to Android Studio. If any file in the editor window has a red underline, that means that there's an error in the file and the project won't compile. You'll get a build error. So a really common reason for this is failing to add imports. So I can start adding a log statement here, for example, in the onCreate method. I can say log.i, pass in a tag. So a lot of students will stop here because this is technically correct. That's the right way to write a log statement. But you can now see that there's a red underline in the main activity. And if you look in the right side, you'll also see where in the file this error is coming from. And the issue, it says, is unresolved reference log. So what you need to make sure is add the import into the file. So the way you can do this is have Android Studio help you with this by hovering over. For a Mac, all I need to do is say Option Enter. And what that did is it added one more line in the set of imports at the top of the file. And now there's no more errors, and I should be able to successfully build and run this app. Now that we've walked through the basics of Android Studio, I'd like to run the application. As you develop apps, you'll of course want to test them out. You can either do this on a real phone or on an emulator, which is a way to start a virtual Android device on your computer. I recommend using an emulator because then you won't have to deal with putting your phone in developer mode and finding a cable to connect it to your computer. And the benefit of an emulator is that you get more flexibility to try out your app on phones of different screen sizes or API versions. This green arrow at the top is how we're going to build and run our application, but before doing that, you'll need to have an emulator. Go to the dropdown next to that green arrow icon and open AVD Manager. AVD Manager stands for Android Virtual Device Manager. If this is your first time with Android Studio, you won't see any devices here. So tap on Create Virtual Device. You can go through the options here to select which kind of phone you want to emulate. So I recommend having one modern phone and one older phone just to see the spectrum of how your app looks on different screens and different screen sizes. So I'll just go through the defaults here. I'll say Pixel 2. Here you need to select a system image. If you don't have one, then you need to download one, but this will dictate what is the API level for that phone. And finally here you can select a name for your Android virtual device, select a default orientation, and there's a couple other advanced settings, but for the most part you should be fine just going with the default. So what you should do is tap on finish, but I'm going to cancel because I already have a bunch of virtual devices. Now we'll boot up an emulator by tapping on the green arrow icon, and pay attention to the bottom of Android Studio, the status bar, which will tell you when the emulator is fully booted up. For the most part, this is like a normal phone. If you're not familiar with Android, spend a few minutes to play around with the emulator and see how you can rotate the phone or go back. So you have normal apps on the home screen. You can drag up to see all the apps. You can drag down to see settings, and so on. When we run the app, we'll actually have one more app icon in this emulator, and that'll be our entry point into the app. So now that we have an emulator running, let me close the virtual device manager, and let me tap on this green arrow icon to run our application. And again, this status bar at the bottom of Android Studio will tell you when it's actually deployed onto your emulator. So here you can see that it got deployed, and just as we expected, we see our layout, which says hi. So interestingly, I find that students will more often get stuck setting up their emulator compared to setting up Android Studio. So I'll leave a link in the description for troubleshooting common issues with the emulator. Now that we have an app running on an emulator, I want to talk about two more important parts of Android Studio to finish up our tour. First is the Logcat tab. So this is at the bottom toolbar. Looking at logs of your app is really important because this is how you can understand what's actually happening. And that's what the Logcat tab will allow you to do. The first dropdown here allows you to select which device you want to look at logs from. We only have one device connected to our computer, which is an emulator, so that's what we'll pick. The next dropdown will allow you to pick which application do you want to view logs from. So you can actually see there's package names representing all the other apps that are on this device. Almost always, I'll keep this on the app that I'm actually developing for. So in our case, this is the Studio Study app. Finally, this dropdown is to indicate the minimum level for what logs you want to see. So everything is ordered. Verbose is the lowest severity level, then debug, info, warning, error, and asserts. So by selecting verbose, we're saying that I want to see all the logs. And if I bring this up to info, that means I only want to see info level logs or higher. You'll notice that there's logs that we wrote here along with a bunch of logs that we never wrote. And these are just coming from the system. So in particular, you can see that the log that we wrote inside the onCreate method does show up. And the other cool thing you can do is filter for logs based on a certain message. So usually inside of one class, the tag will always be the same. And so if I wanted to search for that tag, I could do that. And now we can only see the log message that we expect. And finally, one other thing you want to make sure is in this last dropdown, you have show only selected application. Because if you have no filters, you'll actually be seeing logs from all apps on the device, which will get really confusing. Second is the build tab. So the build tab is useful if you encounter errors when you try to deploy your app. For example, some students don't realize that XML attributes are case sensitive. So if I go into the text tab, and let's say I change this to be capital text, and I tried running the app now. Now the build tab will automatically pop up and you'll see an error. Android Studio is telling us exactly where the issue was. Activity_main.xml line 9, so it's referring to this text view. And it's something called AAPT, attribute Android text not found. And so if you tap either here or if you tap on the file pointer, it'll put you there and then you can try and fix the error. So having some familiarity with the build tab will make sure that you're actually deploying your app correctly. So now if we run the app, we should again see the app boot up on the emulator. Finally, I'd like to leave you with 4 practical tips based on the experience from past students. A lot of these are coming from my friend Karen at CodePath, who's done a lot of great work in this area already. So I'll leave a link to her slides in the description. The first tip is to make sure that you know when your app has been successfully deployed. A lot of students will get frustrated that the app is not reflecting their changes properly, but the issue is simply that the changes aren't even being deployed to the phone or emulator. So when you click on the Run button in Android Studio, you'll see a status bar at the bottom of Android Studio indicating the build progress. When that finishes, check your emulator to make sure that the app that you built is actually coming up and being restarted. Sometimes I found that it's helpful to deliberately introduce an error to make sure that the project actually fails. That way you can tell that the changes you're making are having an effect. The second tip is use autocomplete. Autocomplete is a really powerful feature in Android Studio. It'll not only help you reduce typos, but you can also learn what options are available. For example, if we added a button into our project, you might want to set a click listener so you take some action when the user taps on that button. So if you just start typing set on Click Listener, you can see that Android Studio will help you fill out the rest. And you can also see the documentation in line. This is really helpful not only to learn, but also to make sure that you're much more efficient with your coding. Third, there are a ton of keyboard shortcuts that you'll learn as you spend more time in Android Studio. The only one that I recommend you remember right now is double pressing the Shift key. At any time, you can search across source code, shortcuts, UI elements, and more by typing Shift. For example, opening a file is a really common action. So I can start typing file in the search, and that will tell me the shortcut is Command-Shift-O or Control-Shift-N for Windows. Now that I see that, in the future, I can use the shortcut directly rather than relying on double shift. Once you've been developing for a few months, you'll find that you'll naturally have picked up dozens of keyboard shortcuts. And finally, start clean. The last tip is to simply restart things. Both Android Studio and the emulator are really complex pieces of software, and they have bugs. So if you're encountering a really weird error that seems unrelated to your changes, restart Android Studio and restart the emulator and see if that'll fix it. Another tip is to go into the File menu and then tap on Invalidate Caches or Restart. And then another thing you can try is go into Build and clean your project. Basically, the idea is whatever bad state your build or your project might have been in, clean that and then start again and see if that fixes the issue. That's it in terms of the most important pieces of Android Studio. As a review, we talked about the project window to navigate important files, the editor window to create and modify code, the toolbar at the top is how you run your app, and the toolbar at the bottom contains the Logcat and Build tab, which are useful for diagnosing what's happening when your app is running. I hope you feel more comfortable with Android Studio now. Let me know if you have any questions or tips to share. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.